Welcome to Big Christmas Painting Time final part. In this part I will be painting Amaryllis flowers and Alstroemeria flowers. But first I want to show you how I mix watercolors when I have a real subject in front of me. There are so many reds. I found in flower shop different flowers. They all look red, but look how different they all can be. And for that, it is so good to have a real subject in front of you to mix the real colors that you need for your painting. Of course, taking reference photo is very good and crucial and very important, but when you have a real subject, you can really find the right color mix. Testing on a piece of paper and then placing right to the flower, to real subject, searching, adjusting color tones. That's how I was looking for the right color mix for the Amaryllis flower. Very often a reference photo, especially of the red pigment, is not representing the right color tone. Only in real life we can see the right color tone for the exact subject. Mix colors, test them, adjust them, write color recipes, color notes, and when you will be painting, you will know which colors you need to mix. And practicing watercolor mixes in front of a real subject will help you understand color mixes more. Let's start painting Amaryllis flowers. I'm speeding up the video. Full video is available on my Patreon in real time. Here I will show you and tell you the approach, how I painted these very saturated, very vibrant red Amaryllis flowers. Watercolor mixes are mostly Sennelier red, Perlin maroon, Perlin violet, and Indian yellow. Starting from the darker area, I always start from the shadow parts in my composition. I feel more confident starting from the darker area and building layers towards the lighter part. Even these flowers are super dark and very saturated. I'm not painting very dark and very saturated in the first layers. I'm going transparently and gradually. The more layers we are applying to our subject, the more richer, more rounder, more realistic they will look at the finishing part. Gradually building tonal values, constantly checking reference for little details, for color tones, and right tonal values. Realistic subject on the flat surface is built only from tonal values. What you see, where's the shadow, halftones, reflected light area. Everything is very important to have a realistically looking subject on a flat surface. Even the darkest parts are painted gradually with transparent watercolor layers. The more saturated, the more darker subject is in front of me, the more layers I'm applying. These Amaryllis flowers are very rich in red pigment and also yellow. There are a lot of yellow pigment in these red Amaryllis flowers. So for that I'm using Indian yellow. You can have any yellow pigment that you have in your paint box. It can be cadmium yellow, it can be also lemon yellow mixed together with Sennelier red or cadmium red or Windsor red. Always experiment with watercolor pigments that you already have. No need to buy some new pigments that other artists or tutors are using. First start with what you have. Test them, try them, mix different colors, make color charts, color wheels. Try to know the pigments that you already have. Maybe you will find the best solution, the more perfect mixes for your watercolor painting style. Here you can see how I'm painting with my finest tip brush around the stamens. I'm not using any white pigment or masking fluid. These stamens are quite big and you can manage everything with the finest brush. Carefully, with the very tip of the brush, painting around them and leaving them white. Painting further next petal. Don't overpaint one area for a long time. That way you can damage paper. Apply a layer of watercolors and go to the other section. Let that previous one dry. Paper needs time to absorb water, absorb pigment, dry, and then it's ready to receive another layer of watercolors. If you will overwork one area with watercolors and brushes, you can damage paper and it will not receive any more watery layer or pigment layers. With round synthetic brush, I'm applying watercolors, and when I'm cleaning in water, drying in paper towel, smoothing the applied layer. Adding Sennelier Red to my color palette. Also, it's very normal to run out of watercolor mixes while you are painting. Don't mix in the very beginning huge amount of watercolor mixes. Better to mix a lesser amount, smaller amount of watercolor mixes, and when you run out of them, you know the pigments that you mixed. Then you can again mix new watercolor mix of the same pigments, and even if the color tone slightly changed, don't worry, your painting will only benefit from slightly different color tone. When flowers are almost finished, now is the time to look at them not individually, but as a whole composition. Compare one flower head to another one, which is darker, which is lighter. Build more contrast, add another layer, adjust colors, tonal values. Now is the time to push yourself a little bit further. It looks almost like finished, but you can definitely do more. Give more effort to your painting. Spend a little bit more time. Push yourself a little bit further, and you will see better result each time when you are painting. Even when the tutorial is finished, you can still do some extra 20-30 minutes of painting. Careful observation of the reference and your brushwork. Adding clean Sennelier Red to my color palette, and with round synthetic brush doing a transparent watery wash of this pigment over petals, giving that extra red boost, more saturated and vibrant look. And it should be really transparent. All tonal values will stay in the right transitions, in the right values. It's just another very thin layer. Now the finishing part for this painting are Alstroemeria flowers. We have 3 little flower heads of Alstroemeria, and in the reference the color tone looks very similar. In my painting I'm slightly changing, leaving Amaryllis flower more warmer yellowish red, and will paint Alstroemeria flowers also red but closer to pink and violet color tone. I'm adding to Sennelier red more of permanent rose to get more pinker red color, a little bit cooler color tone, so that both flowers look different in my painting. We can always adjust some things because this is our work, our practice and our painting. We can change some things unless it stays the same characteristics of the flowers. But slightly changing color tone, I think my painting will only benefit from it. Painting Alstroemeria flowers with finer tip brush, with careful observation of the reference, but here you really need to download the reference image, zoom in closer each petal, and take a careful look how those petals look, how our tonal values, which petal is darker, which is lighter. There are a lot of details and they look quite the same. Everything looks quite similar there, but only after careful look I'm noticing that some flower petals are darker, some are lighter, how they are separated one from each other. Adding darker watercolor mix to inner part of the flower head to give more depth, that everything in the middle goes more deeper in the composition in the flower head. Now all areas are painted and we can have a whole look and zoom out and look at the painting and see where we need to add something more. I can see in some areas that I need more contrast, more darkness. I will not paint the same darkness as it is in a reference because still it is a photo. I can have slightly different, darker, super darker areas in my painting. Of course, I'm still building contrast, but not as dark as it looks in the photo. Now I'm looking at the whole painting as a one subject, not as an individual, each flower as individual subject, but as one whole painting, one whole composition, adjusting details, adjusting color tones and tonal values, giving some extra time. The finishing part is also called a cleaning part, when you make more neater edge lines, correcting them, making more sharper. Also stamens, you can also with the tiny tip of your brush make them more finer, thinner, add some contrast and add some interesting texture detail. Compare each flower to one another and see where you need more, maybe shadow area, cast shadow area. Now is the time when you do more. Even if it looks finished, try to give more time, more effort to your work. And you will see how it becomes more and more realistic, more and more beautiful. Adding last brush strokes to this painting and finishing up. I really enjoyed painting this big Christmas painting together with you, challenge myself, challenge a little bit you, and this was a really nice time spent and a beautiful work we have now. Thank you for painting with me, thank you for being here. See you next in upcoming tutorials. Thank you, bye bye.